Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Whatever it is your time zone across the world, it is the Motivational Wisdom Straight Talk time. Today, I'm going to educate you so you can grow and lead, a fundamental principle I use in my management consultant services. I'm going to start off with a scripture as I always do, taken from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15. Looking carefully, lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled. Today, I'm going to start with this quote the Lord gave to me. Bitterness is a seed rooted with dimensions of a cycle of unhealthy toxicity. Just reflect on this for a moment. Bitterness, seed, and toxicity. The Motivational Wisdom Straight Talk is toxicity of bitterness. Now, this perspective draws on the psychological mental capacity of behavioral science, correlating to the cognitive, which encompasses anthropology, physiology, and sociology. Herein, the connectivity impact deals with the affective science of emotions relating to the effect of complex reaction pattern of humans to certain stimuli and how those reactions affect humans both physically and mentally. Emotions are not feelings or moods, and feelings or moods derive from emotions. The emotional experiences have three components. There is a subjective experience, a psychological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. Before I go any further, I would like to break down root of bitterness. Root. In order for anything to take root, there must be seed planted. For anything to take root, seed must be planted. Premise: the depth complex elements of the psychological paradigms and humans' connectivity to the physiological, anthropological, and sociological of interaction and response defines individual character and group character over time. What is individual character? The totality of mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual's attributes and personality traits, particularly their characteristic moral, social, and religious attitudes. What is group character? It is several individuals thought of as a group because of a common mental or moral quality or qualities and attributes. Let's stop to digest. Bitterness encompasses the psychological mental capacity, emotional capacity, connecting to the anthropology, physiology, and sociology of interaction and response with other people, situations, and environments. Let us think in the scripture context, living in the practical, taken from Proverbs chapter 14, verse 10, and then reading Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31. The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Therefore, if the heart knows, the soul and mind knows of its own bitterness. Bitterness must be dealt with appropriately, and the incumbent dimensions to overcome positivity and incivility. Let's stop to define bitterness, seed, and toxicity. What is bitterness? We have 16 definitions of bitterness. 1. Bitterness is a state of anger and disappointment at being treated unfairly. 2. Bitter distress situation such as grief or vexation of mind. 3. Bitter resentment. 4. Bitter deep-seated ill will as in hostility. 5. Bitter hatred. 6. Bitterness of spirit. 7. Deep malice towards someone to harm. 8. Acidity. 9. Sharpness in bitter manner. 10. Bitter of broken heart. 11. Bitter spitefulness. 12. Bitter vindictiveness. 13. A state of extreme impiety or enmity to God. 14. Bitter schism and apostasy. 15. Bitter envy of another or another's possessions. And 16. Bitter jealousy. What is seed? Seed is defined as 1. The seed is the embryonic stage of the plant life cycle. 2. The beginning of something which continues to develop or grow. 3. The principle of production to reproduce. And 4. Progeny, which is a descendant or the descendants of a person, animal, or plant. It is, simply put, an offspring. What is toxicity? Toxicity is defined as 1. The quality of being toxic or poisonous. 2. The quality of being very harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or sedacious way. And 3. Contagious. Let's stop to digest beyond the normality of harmony in life to bitterness in life. Let us implement in the perspective 2 biblical examples and the depth of the humanistic approach with bitterness in life to positively impact growth and development. Our first example is Cain and Abel, the offsprings of Adam and Eve. In Genesis 4:1-16, it tells of the story how Abel was murdered by his older brother Cain because he was righteous and his sacrifice was accepted by the Lord. Cain became angry because the Lord did not accept his sacrifice, and in a jealous rage, he murdered his brother and lied to God. Cain's bitterness had no remorse. The malice was in his heart, his mind, and his spirit to the intent of murdering his brother. This biblical history is left on record to instruct in right and wrong behaviors, interactions, and responses. Our second biblical example is Jacob and Esau, twin brothers, offsprings of Isaac and Rebekah. Esau was loved by Isaac because he was the older brother. He was a skilled hunter. He was physically strong, and the family ate of his game. Rebekah loved Jacob unconditionally, who was not such a skilled hunter. He was a mild man dwelling in tents. But the Lord spoke to Rebekah and told her within her there was two that would become two separate nations, and that the younger son would be the stronger and would inherit the blessing. So on a certain day, Jacob cooked stew, and Esau came in from the field. He was weary from hunting all day, and he did not catch anything that day. And he was hungry. His mental capacity could only think of death. And because of his hunger, he sold his birthright to his brother Jacob, when his brother Jacob cunningly asked him, "Sell me your birthright." Thus, Esau despised his birthright. He sold his birthright and despised Jacob because he inherited the blessing. We find this biblical story of great substance in Genesis 25:29-34. And Hebrews, within the opening context in 12:16-17, makes mention of Esau, of how he sold his birthright for a morsel. A morsel. Don't sell your birthright. Later, we find that Jacob, he wrestles with an angel of the Lord in Genesis 32:24-28. He wrestles with the angel of the Lord to bless him from the stigma he was left with from taking his brother's birthright, in which it was really sold to him. He wrestled with the angel of the Lord to the break of day. He told the angel, "I will not let you go until you bless me." He wrestled such with the angel of the Lord, wrestling in prayer and wrestling physically and spiritually and mentally, that his hip bone was knocked out of socket from the angel. But Jacob did not stop wrestling with the Lord. And then the angel stopped him and said, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And then he divinely told him, "Your name is no more longer Jacob, but Israel, because you prevailed in prayer. You prevailed with God and prevailed with man." Now, let us stop looking at these two biblical examples. Let us stop to ask these challenging personal questions and self-evaluation to reflect on, to move forward positively. Have I become a bitter, thriving person? Does bitterness encompass my total being, situations, and environments? Have I become toxic with bitterness? What must I let go of in the infancy of embitterment phase? Who must I forgive and let go of that is toxic? And how will I help myself and seek help in bitterness? It makes you think, does it not? Life lessons to remember. Perspective and the evaluation. Let us discuss the bitterness perspective and characteristics to avoid growing and developing into toxic individuals, producing toxicity offsprings and toxicity and environments. To live in bitterness becomes choice of the will in the end. We will be discussing 7 behavior and emotional characteristics of bitterness affecting the humanistic elements of the psychological, physiological, anthropology, and sociology. 1. Know how to deal with anger. Anger is such a debated, basic, intense human emotion. You feel when something has gone wrong or someone has wronged you, but can lead to rage of harm. The complex emotion of unhealthy anger leads to bitterness, releases negative behavior conduct, which can lead to unhealthy mental capacity, continuous behaviors affecting the 4 humanistic elements. Cope with anger. Let go of anger and seek help if needed. 2. Know how to deal with disappointment. We will all be disappointed at some point in life. Disappointment derives from the emotion anger, with disciplines of sadness or displeasure caused by the non-fulfillment of one's hopes or expectations. Disappointment can come from events or situations that we are in life. Disappointment can lead to unhealthy mental capacity, unhealthy behaviors affecting the 4 humanistic elements of the psychology, physiology, anthropology, and sociology. Cope with disappointment with positive mechanisms of change. Let go of disappointment and seek help if needed. Know how to deal with resentment. Resentment is a negative emotion. It's reaction to being mistreated or an emotional reaction to other people getting something you think they did not deserve. Resentment is the state of holding something in the mind, let's say grudge, as a subject of contemplating on. Too long of the contemplating in the mind stems from emotion anger that releases negative behavior reaction. The behaviors affect the 4 humanistic elements: the psychology, physiology, anthropology, and sociology. Cope with resentment. Let go of resentment and seek help if needed. The fourth emotional and behavior characteristic deals with envy. Envy is a negative emotion of painful discontentment and resentment generated by the desire for the possessions, attributes, qualities of or achievements of another. They are the target of envy. Envy is deeply ingrained in covetousness. Envy is characterized by negative behavior, starting in the mental capacity, such as thoughts of violence, attacks, oppression, and even murder. That interaction and response is unhealthy. Emotions and behaviors affect the four humanistic elements of the psychology, physiology, anthropology, and sociology. Seek help. Let go of envy and move forward in positive change. 5. Know how to deal with hatred. Hatred is a negative emotion of strong aversion, intense dislike that encourages the elimination of others. It involves dehumanization or the denial of human qualities to others. The negative behavior is an affection of the mind awakened by something regarded as evil to do evil or cause violent harm. Unhealthy emotions and behaviors, it can extremely affect the psychological, physiological, anthropology, and sociology. My God, seek help. Let go of hatred and move forward with positive change. The 6th is know how to deal with jealousy. Jealousy is a complex emotion deriving from resentment and envy that encompasses feelings ranging from suspicion to rage to fear to humiliation. Jealousy requires a triangle of social relationships between 3 individuals, in which an individual resents a third party for appearing to take away the affections of another. Jealousy emotion can be significantly affect mental capacity health with behavior outbursts, anxiety or worry, unhappiness, power plays, painful and unrealistic sabotage of others. Emotions and behaviors and the 4 humanistic elements, they do affect the psychology, physiology, anthropology, and sociology. Seek help. Let go of jealousy and move forward with positive change. Lastly, the number 7, know how to deal with malice. Malice is an unhealthy, negative behavior. It's a behavior of passion in the mind with the intention or desire to do evil. It is an ill will to another without just cause. Malice is characterized by personality attributes defining the person's behaviors, defining the emotions and thought pattern, whereas a spirit delighting and thriving in harm, inflicting injury or suffering on another. It is either because of a hostile impulse or out of deep-seated meanness. Malice is rooted in evilness. Nothing good comes out of malice. The behaviors affect correlating to the connectivity of the psychological, physiological, anthropology, and sociology of everyone that's connected. Seek help. Seek help. Seek help. What advice from this life lesson might I give as a personal reflection in learning, growing, developing, and in experience? Act. Do not settle for the toxicity of bitterness in you, social relationships, and environments. Some people are just made to thrive on bitterness. Some people love bitterness. We can find this just with Cain and Abel. Just thrive in it. Know who you are. Know your value. Know what you represent. And know what positive stance of integrity you have evaluating yourself, people, places, things, and environments. I must say, pray it through. Listen for the spirit of wisdom and then obey the spirit. Watch your own natural health, behavior, and emotional well-being, and spiritual well-being, and take positive actions. Evaluate who you trust. Evaluate the will of God. And last, do not settle for the toxicity of bitterness. This is Lady Cynthia Kelly, tuning off with the Motivational Wisdom Straight Talk, Toxicity. I hope this impactful conversation will help you change, transform, and grow.